Hey, Janelle, and welcome to Voice Notes from the Organized Homeschool. I'm super excited to chat. I can't wait to learn more about you, your family, and your homeschool. And I know that everyone who gets to listen in on our conversation will also learn so much too. So, can you start by just sharing your intro of yourself? Who are you? A little bit about your family, your homeschool, anything you feel comfortable sharing here, and then we'll kick things off from there.
Hey, Erica. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story. My name's Janelle. I'm a homeschool mom to 3 kiddos. Our kids are 2, 4, and 6. And so we have our oldest, he's going to be starting in first grade. Our middle, our 4-year-old, she's going to be starting in 4-5 pre-K. And then our youngest, she's 2. And so technically she doesn't homeschool, but she does, as families with multiple kids already know. Our kids attend what's called a hybrid homeschool. So for us, that model is really great. They actually attend in person school in the fall and spring, and they will go 3.5 hours 2 times a week. I love it because it's a Christian-based school. Their classes are maxed out at 12 kids. The younger classrooms, they actually have a teacher and a para. Older classrooms, they have one teacher. And then it's actually a really small school. It's a wonderful part of our homeschooling journey. We homeschool year round. We have a set curriculum for the fall, for the whole school year. We do have a 1 month winter break, which is nice. And then during the summer, so for half of May, June, July, August, and then our kids start school in September, we do a modified, what I call like modified light homeschooling. So we do math and reading most days of the week. Reading's pretty much every day. And then we do a lot of science, arts and crafts, and outside time. That's really where a lot of our learning in general happens. So we live in the Midwest, specifically in Kansas. We live about 2 hours outside of Kansas City. My husband and I met at Kansas State University. And from there, we actually spent quite a long time we lived at first in New York, and then we lived in Denver, and then we came back to Kansas just to be closer to our families, closer to our roots. So we never actually planned to be a homeschool family. But as our kids have gotten older, we started living more of what I consider a crunchy lifestyle. We definitely would say that we live like a scrunchy lifestyle. So there's a lot of things that we're hardcore believers in on both sides. And so it's really this nice fit then for us to find this hybrid homeschool option because we feel like it gives us the best of both worlds. So the hybrid model specifically, our kids go to in-person school 2 days a week for 3.5 hours. And then the other 3 days of the week, we do the curriculum at home. It makes it nice because our kids are getting to experience some of those traditional school things, but it's a lot more limited. On our homeschool days, we have a pre-planned curriculum and we can modify that, but it does keep everybody on track and make it more formal, and which actually does really help me feel like we're not just out here homeschooling and just picking and choosing what we're trying to do and make sure that it helps me make sure that we're keeping up with the rest of their classes and following that curriculum. It makes our homeschooling comfort levels different than what I would personally feel just starting out. That's just for me. I know several of our friends do traditional homeschooling and they love that option and maybe do a co-op. It's a wonderful option for us to balance out everything in our lives. In addition to being a homeschool mom, I own a website called FlintHillsMoms.com. That website is actually really to encompass all of the writing and work that I've done for multiple different places across the US. And then actually some of it has gone international. And so right now I have over 135 published articles through different magazines and websites. And most of those are based on parenting and crafting with kids, like realistic crafts, not the Pinterest ones, because that's not me. And then also the focus on like community and resources that are available. I finished a homeschool guide that was for our local community that has actually been shared for people that are looking at homeschooling and how to do that. They want to know what our local co-ops are. And so that's really exciting to be able to share that with my own local community. Outside of writing, I actually have a couple other random part-time jobs. So I do actually work with a company. It's called the Chelsea Method. And so it's actually geared towards postpartum moms, which is how I found the company. The owner, Stephanie, is great. She's a hybrid homeschool mom as well. Her kids actually go 3 days a week to a different school and then do homeschool 2 days a week. The program she runs is geared towards postpartum moms and then working with people who want to heal their pelvic floor but might not be able to get to pelvic floor therapy, which was me. I've been with that company for over a year now and I love it. I lead what are called squads, which are groups. And so it's just really helping motivate people, helping them stay on track, helping them figure out their workouts, figure out their workout plans. And so that's something I feel passionate about. And I was happy to find an option to work for them and do something that I love. In addition to that, I also work for a therapy clinic that they work with children. And so I'm able to do some like healthcare consultation for them to help out with things they need questions on. A project I'll be coming up on is helping them rewrite and edit their policies, procedures, and handbooks. Before I had kids, I worked as a healthcare executive director. I was the healthcare administrator for a community, and I loved that. I worked in healthcare for 7 years, but I was on call 24/7, 365. So we just knew that when we had kids, that wasn't really something that I was going to be able to, that I know that there are people that do choose to continue to have that role. But for me, that wasn't something that I wanted to do at that point. And then I also am licensed with my state, the state of Kansas. I work as a mediator. It's not something I'm actively doing. My focus has always been divorce and child custody. And to be honest, that's heavy. And I'm in this fun time in my life. And so it's, while I want to help people and I'll probably pursue that sometime, somewhere down the line, right now I've put that on hold so I can focus on being home with our kids. Outside of homeschooling, I actually help out at my kids' hybrid school. I actually help out as what's called the parent liaison. And it's a volunteer role, but I super love it. I help with community engagement and building within our hybrid homeschool. I know that was probably a lot, Erica. I can definitely cut that down some. Just give me some direction on what you're looking for. I do want to also highlight my husband, so I'll start another message here in a second. One thing that's really important to me and our family is homeschooling is a family commitment. My husband is the biggest supporter of us homeschooling, even though sometimes that means that he comes home and I'm like, hey, I need you to read all these books with the kids, or hey, I need your help with X, Y, or Z, or hey, I need you to go take our oldest and do an English lesson with him in the other room. He's definitely our biggest supporter. None of our life, none of any of it at all, homeschooling, but just in general, our whole life, none of it would be possible without him. And we're so thankful for him and everything he does.
Okay, Janelle, girl, you got a lot going on. I love it. And what's hilarious about all this is I'm similar, like so much stuff. I like to call us ambitious moms, right? Like we're doing all the things. And some days I'm like, why am I doing all this? I'm about to cancel everything and just move to a beach. But then some days I'm like, I did all that, yes, and I did it real well. And I'm going to pat myself on the back. And I hope you have those days more than you don't, because you're doing a lot and I love it. I definitely want to ask you how you manage all of it, right? Okay, 2, 4, and 6-year-old, which amazing. I love just like a little crew of young kids. I am about to have a 6-year-old and I have a 1-year-old. So you have young kids, you have homeschooling that you do, you have homeschooling that you're sending them to, you're supporting that hybrid school, and then you have 3 part-time things going on, if I'm summarizing that well. So how do you balance all of it? Tell me that definitely, because I need some of your tips. And then I was wondering, when did you start homeschooling? Did you just finish your first year? How many years have you been at this?
Thank you, Erica. I think there's this homeschool set of moms or whatever you want to call us. homeschooling moms, homeschooling mamas who homeschool, whatever we are. I think that there is this big, truthfully, a gap of these unrecognized moms that are doing all these things. I have a friend that love to get you connected with her. She works full time and they homeschool. And I'm just like, wow, like, how do you do that? For my family, we feel really passionate about it. While some days are incredibly hard and some days suck, I look at the bigger picture of what I want for our family and how I see our lives unfolding. I choose to show up and I say yes. We started homeschooling at the beginning of last summer. A really weird time to start. We had already signed up. Our oldest was starting kindergarten at our hybrid homeschool. And so we were looking at that and okay, we've never homeschooled. How are we going to do this? We bought a program. It was super great. It was like $20. I actually still use it with our littles. And so we spent the first whole summer with a 1, 3, and 5-year-old doing our thing. It was just like this trial by error. I remember this day where the theme for the week was like that book, Caps for Sale. I don't know if you know that book, but it's where the guy goes around trying to sell caps. He can't sell any, so he takes a nap. And then the monkeys come and they take all of his caps and he gets really upset and then they give them all back. And then he walks around and he's like, all right, I'm going to move on and I'm going to sell caps. And I remember that day so vividly because my kids loved that book. And we had read it before, but not to this extent, not where we had activities planned around caps for sale. And my kids got out every single hat that we owned. And so I have this picture where our kids have hats stacked and stacked on top of their heads. And I will always remember that. It was this very small, simple moment. And for other people, it won't mean anything. They'd see it's like my kids in these stacked hats and they'd be like, oh, cool, that's funny. But for me, that's the moment that I remember. And to me, that was a life changing, pivotal moment in saying, yes, I can do this. And yes, it's going to be crazy, but it's also like a good crazy. Pick our crazy. And maybe crazy is not the right word, but pick our wild, pick our hard. I guess that's really what it is. I think that traditional public school, I think there's a lot of hards. I think for homeschooling kids, there's a lot of hards. I think for hybrid homeschooling kids, there's a lot of hards. And for us, it was just a matter of which hard are we going to pick and invest our time and resources into. We always came back to it. Maybe we will go into public school down the line, but it was where do we want to pick our heart and where is that going to lead us? So we've wrapped up just over a full year of homeschooling because we do homeschool year round. It's really exciting. I went to brunch with a couple of my homeschooling girlfriends and we all celebrated. It was like this big monumental thing. Hey, we did it and we're doing it again. And so it was just this fun passion to be able to experience the whole school year and then a summer year. It was beautiful. I think that we're really fortunate. We have family that are close by. Our families help out some. A couple times a month, we have someone babysit for a couple hours, which is super helpful. But I think on a true day to day basis, I will just say that I'm not type A, I'm not type B. I actually made a video about it because I was joking around with someone that I am just really like this blood type AB, that there's some things I'm just extremely organized. And then like my closet floor covered in random stuff sometimes. I will say that one of the biggest things that I stress to new moms considering homeschooling, especially if people are wanting to work in any sort of capacity, you just have to be organized. You have to have a plan. Anything you can do to simplify things in your home, do it. I'm not just talking about physical clutter because that's a huge one too. But can you set up a 1 week meal plan or a 2 week meal plan? Streamline anything and everything that you can. And for us, part of that is our kids go to bed, they start getting ready for bed like at 7 o'clock every night. So they're usually done and in bed by 8. So then I usually have from 8 to whenever I go to bed to do my thing. I write for several different places and have those in my note sections. And I can add a date on there and it automatically goes to my calendar. My husband and I share a Google Calendar. I use Voxer with another group I work with. It just makes it easy to use technology when that really streamlines it. But we do have a handwritten dry erase calendar that we keep on the side of our fridge. That way everybody can take a look and know what's going on. We do color coordinate it, but not like a true color coordinated thing. For example, my oldest, he's doing T-ball right now. So we put his T-ball games and practices in blue because that's his favorite color. So then when he's reading the calendar, he is able to like look for the blue and, oh, that's my activity. And then he can read his people. So it makes it a lot easier. I hope that answers your questions. I also wanted to add our kids go to bed by 8 o'clock every night. We have a pretty set 2 hour window in the day, usually from 1 to 3 or 1:30 to 3:30, depending on the day. We have quiet time, rest time. Our kids take a nap, or if we're going to do screens that day, that's when they're able to watch TV. It really helps our whole house flow over the course of the day. We don't really have a set schedule unless we have to be somewhere, but we have more of a flow to the day. I'm happy to dive into what that looks like, but it really sets our whole house up for success so we know what's coming when we're doing school, when we're having snack, when we're going outside, when we're having lunch, etc. Another super big organizational tip that I have is I actually set pretty strict limits on my phone use. I know every single thing that you ever read about managing phone use and time says don't check your messages first thing in the morning, but I'm actually the opposite. So I prefer to check all my messages, get everything answered first thing in the morning. And then I set my phone down and I have it on do not disturb. And the only person that can bypass that is my husband. I've told my sister and my parents how they can bypass it if there's truly an emergency. I keep my phone on do not disturb. And then I usually check it once mid-morning around lunchtime and in the afternoon when I'm working on stuff. I'm answering messages during that time. Then I put it down again, check it around dinner time, and then after our kids go to bed. And so for me, that's really been super beneficial and super helpful because, as we all know, the phones, social media, as much as we love them and we need them in our lives, they are a big time suck. They pull you in and then you can be on them for hours without realizing it and your morning has gone, your day is gone. And so I think setting up some sort of limit or figuring out a plan to help manage your time on your phone really is a big thing for me. It has helped me out a ton.
Okay, that last tip about phone use is gold. I'm going to come back to it. But first, I wanted to ask, and I'm sure other folks will have this question and want to know too, what was that $20 program you picked when you first started homeschooling with your children? Because if you're still using it, it must be really good. If you are willing or able to share, definitely share. And then that piece about pick your hard is so good. There's positives and negatives to everything you choose to do. Like in Maryland, where we're located, our son can't do activities with the public schools. But if I were to send him to public school, that would be a big positive. I wouldn't have to pay extra for sports and clubs and things like that. But there's definitely negatives, and obviously I think there's negatives if I'm choosing not to send him to public school. Pick your hard, pick what, everything's going to come with pros and cons. So which pros are outweigh the cons enough for you to do that, right? Totally agree with you. Love that you guys had a celebratory brunch. I'm totally going to do that. I am planning I got to come up with a good name for it, but I want to plan a vision board brunch. Maybe that's the name. Vision Homeschool Vision Board Brunch. I don't know, with some of my homeschool friends and folks around for us to just get together and create our vision boards for the next year. So many good tips that you shared around organization. Love them all. I know that some of these things that you shared are going to totally help people. I'm definitely stealing. Everybody knows the phone use thing, like you said, right? Like it's obvious. It sucks up time, but also I think the piece around phone use for me that makes me so sad is that I feel at times being like, wow, I just totally missed what my son was saying. I was focused on sending a text or whatever it is. So I think after I'm done sending this recording, I'm going to update my permission so that if I'm in Do Not Disturb, only my husband and my mom. I'm an only child, so I don't have siblings to add to that list. A text from my husband or my mom, those are the only two that will come through. I'm going to start using Do Not Disturb. My phone automatically goes to Do Not Disturb if I have an event on my calendar, but I think I'm just going to turn it on for the day and I love how you have set times, like first thing in the morning, knock some messages out, maybe check one time else in the morning, and then afternoon. I love this so much. You inspired me. Let's talk about this 2-hour block of downtime. We are not as structured. It's usually 1 to 3 because I have done a not so great job of making sure that my 1-year-old gets a consistent nap every day. He gets a nap every day or multiple 2 naps a day, but they have not been consistent times. And so I don't have the time, but typically when he's napping, we will do some downtime, quiet time. But my question for you, twofold. I love you mentioned like being able to go into more of how your schedule, your flow of your day goes. Love that. I know so many people have questions about schedules because that's how you get your work done and get the learning done for your children. It feels like if you have a schedule, that's how you ensure it happens. And I know some of us don't have set schedules, and it sounds like you have a flowy schedule. But I want to hear more. So can you tell us more about that? Can you also tell me what happens when you have something happening that day and that 1 to 3 time doesn't happen? Are you okay with it? Do you shift it? Because we often have play dates, and maybe you don't have as many play dates or things happening because your children have time with friends the 2 days a week they go into school. But yeah, I'm just curious about that and would love to hear more about your flow for the day. This is so good. Thanks.
So many great things to digest from your voice message. I'm going to try and capture them all. If not, I'll come back and answer it. Today is just like a real day in the life of the homeschool life. We're actually getting ready to move. My goal this week is to pack 20 boxes, which I'm going to do. My husband's actually left this morning. He won't get back till 4 days. So that's always a little bit challenging just because my kids, of course, they're very connected, but this morning we're working on some of the kids' schoolwork. And so we actually made a video that just on my phone, not anything crazy, made a little video. So we send it to my husband, and my 6-year-old, he makes math problems. And we take a video of it and send it to my husband. So then my husband is still included. And then my kids get super excited when daddy sends them back a voice message or a video. The program that we love is actually called Playing Preschool. It's from Busy Toddler. So we bought that program a couple of years ago. I went back and looked. We paid, I think it was actually, I don't know if we paid $20 or we paid $30. I thought it was $20, but I looked online to double check. I think the prices might have gone up. She does offer regular sales, and you can email her and ask. I've talked to her via email multiple times. Even though she's promoting it at 40, you might be able to get it for 30 on sale. That's the program that we've loved. We've used that with our kiddos. We've had great success and results. It actually sounds really silly because I know you can get it on Google. There's actually the part of the program is you get the ABCs. Okay, sorry about that. I had to kiss some boo-boos really quick. Our youngest, she chews her fingernails, and we don't know how to stop that. Even the nail stuff that's supposed to taste really gross doesn't phase her. So I had to kiss a little boo real quick. But yeah, so the Playing Preschool from the Busy Toddler, actually part of it is a PDF of the ABCs, and you can print that off as many times, I believe, as you want. And so my kids have absolutely loved that because they're literally a full-size sheet of paper, ABCs. And so we've used those for so many projects. At one point, my kids, they had the ABCs going around their entire room with different characters they had decorated. I remember for C, they did caterpillars, and for A, they did apples. And so it was actually really fun, really cute. I actually kept that because it's like one of those things that you'd probably get in a traditional public school. I kept that in my little keep forever pile. Yes, I totally agree about the pick your heart. I think that both homeschooling and public schools, hybrid schools, all the options they have hard, but I think it's definitely leaning in and figuring out what is worth it for each family. I know you had mentioned sports, Erica. So for us, our public school system, kids are eligible to do sports through the public schools starting, I believe it's in 7th grade or 8th grade. They actually just have to meet the same requirements as the public school kiddos. So it's based on attendance. I know they have to have a current physical on file and then their grades. Someone actually told me recently that it's called the Tim Tebow Law. And so I thought that was really neat just because I know there's so many different opportunities out there that people don't know about. For us locally, I guess let me start first for our family. So we're big on finding opportunities that our kids actually want to do. So when our oldest was really little, 3-ish, maybe 4. We tried out my first soccer through the Parks and Rec, and it went horrible. And he was like, is this a motivation for us or is it motivation for him? We're like coming out of COVID at that time. And he's like, why are there so many other kids? And why is everybody yelling? It was just too much. For us, that was a stopping point of like, wait, let's wait till our kids are asking to do things until they want to. One of the places that I write for is actually local. I write about our community resources. I've created this youth sports guide for every single sport in the area. Our community offers a lot of free rec sports for 1 year, one season to try it out. And so, like right now, my son, he's doing T-ball and it's completely sponsored. And so it's an amazing opportunity to see if that's what we want to do. We know a homeschool mom that teaches what's called like a homeschool dance class. And so our littles, our 2 and our 4-year-old, they have several friends actually, that have invited them to do dance classes at the studios. But honestly, those classes are expensive. The homeschool mom offers a month-long class. You can sign up by the month. It's $20 per kiddo per lesson. So usually that's $5 a week. So if we have to miss it, I'm not like super upset because while of course we don't want to pay for something, but we also it's significantly better priced. So finding that as a resource has been super great for us. And my kids absolutely loved it. So they're already signed up for the fall. In our area, we actually have 4 main co-ops as well as 2 hybrid schools. I think the biggest co-op has a sports league, which is why I think a lot of families choose to sign up for that specific co-op. And they do, I don't really know the in and outs just because it's not something that we've done, but I do know that they have enough kiddos signed up for each sport, for each season where they have the ability to have teams. The hybrid school that my kiddos go to, like I had mentioned, I volunteer and I help out at the school, and I've been able to chat with the founder. Part of that would be including sports down the line. So I don't know if that'll happen, but just at least having the voice in such a small community, a small school to say, hey, this is something we're interested in. And I think she's the one that was like, hey, would you guys ever be interested in this? She's thinking of the long term and what that looks like. Personally, I love the name Homeschool Vision Board Brunch. That's super cute. I would definitely sign up if I was in the area. I love the idea that your local homeschool mom friends are already going to join, and then you're going to make a bunch of new homeschool mom friends through that. That's going to be something, honestly, that sounds like it's going to turn into a mom's group or a monthly thing where people are going to want to get together and show up for that. That sounds amazing. I love that idea. Okay, so the phone, I know it sounds crazy. People are always like, what? How do you not have your phone on? And don't get me wrong, like if I'm expecting a call, I turn my phone on or I turn the do not disturb off. But having the phone not as like our 6th member of our family, as I like to joke, like we have 3 kids, 2 adults, and then there'd be a phone who's ever present. Like we don't need another person in our family right now. We're set. So having the phone away definitely makes a big difference. But I do think it is important that I have some set times because that is part of life right now. Everybody's using their phone all the time, even my kids. As much as we try and not use the phone, hey, can you look this up on your phone? Or hey, can we take a photo? Or hey, can we call such and such on FaceTime? But definitely is alive and present, just not as much as we would love. So, our daily routine, I have to laugh because it's a routine. We don't have a set schedule. I would love if we were the type of family that we were like, all right, it is 7:30 a.m. and we are eating breakfast, and now it is 8 o'clock. So, everybody needs to get dressed and make their beds. That's great if that works for some families. That, doesn't work for us. But I will give a flow of our day and the flow of the week. And then I want to address the 2-hour quiet time because I know that's always a burning question for all of our friends and what to do if we miss that or if we have to postpone it or move it. Our daily routine really depends on if we are staying home for the day or if we are heading out for the day. About a third of the time, we try to be home. During the school year, when our kiddos are attending their hybrid school in the fall and the spring semesters, we are, this kind of probably sounds a little crazy because we are a homeschool family, right? Mondays, we are out of our house. Tuesdays, we are out of our house. Wednesdays, we are home. Thursdays, we are out of the house. Fridays are a split 50-50, and I'll go into that a little bit more. Saturdays and Sundays are usually our big family time, depending on what we have on our household calendar. We usually have our kiddos pick one activity that they want to do as a family. We do try and spend some time at home on the weekend as well, just having some downtime, reconnection time. So on a daily basis, I try and wake up before my kids. That does not always happen. That is one of the hardest things that I've been trying to navigate and do better at. I truthfully do better when I'm up before my kids. Get up, usually work out in the morning. I use a quick, efficient program. So my workouts are probably 15, 20 minutes max, but that puts me in a great headspace to get going for the day. My reward, I know it sounds really silly, but after I work out, then I have my coffee and sit down, go through messages, drinking my coffee. My husband's actually awake. He wakes up crazy early time in the morning, so he's already been awake. He's like his second cup of coffee at that point. And so we're both just there, we're together, but we're doing our own thing. If there's things that we need to talk about, address, that's a great time that we have that time together. And so then usually around that time, our kiddos start waking up around 7:15. I start getting breakfast ready. They're spending time with daddy before he leaves for work. He usually leaves around 7:38. And then kids and I sit down, we have breakfast. The one thing that I know is very controversial is I'm one of those people that like immediately go in, get our kitchen cleaned up, get breakfast cleaned up. I clean off our table right after breakfast because while we've tried having the homeschool classroom, that didn't really work for us. So we just always gravitated back to our table. And so I clean it off immediately, wipe it down. Then I get out our homeschool supplies for that day or what I consider our table work or book work. When we're ready, it's already set and ready to go. While I'm doing that, I have the expectation that my kiddos, 2, 4, and 6, they get themselves dressed. For our 2-year-old, she almost always wants to wear this lemur shirt. So I usually pull that shirt and another shirt option. And then she knows where her underwear are. She knows where her shorts are. She mostly gets herself dressed. Then our 4-year-old, I pull down usually 2 outfits. I ask her, what color do you want to wear? She tells me. I pull out shirts, dresses, shorts, and underwear to help her with that. Our 6-year-old, unfortunately, his closet's a bit too high for him. So I ask again, what color you want to wear? Grab him a couple options and just grab his shirt down. And then he picks out his bottoms. 6 months ago, we got our big kids new beds, which was fun and great. They're those IKEA convertible beds that flip into bunk beds. Super duper love them. But the downfall I wasn't realizing is that it's very challenging for our big kids to make their own beds. So that has put a little bit of a damper on having the kids make their own beds. So these IKEA beds that we got were amazing. They started out as like a twin bed, and then you have the option to flip it over as they get older. When our kids had their beds flipped over on the lower side, they were able to make their own beds. So it was like, all right, I'm cleaning up, getting our school stuff ready. You guys go get dressed, make your beds. Boom. It was easy. Now that we've flipped the beds into the lofted side, which has been super amazing. It's like one of the best things we own. Our kids love the beds because they call their own little house underneath. It's been challenging because our kids can't necessarily make the beds when they're on the beds. Kids are getting ready, they brush their teeth. We're trying to have them be as independent as possible, just setting them up with the things that they need. Our younger kids, they try and put toothpaste on their toothbrushes, but I quickly run through, put toothpaste on. Then in the morning, again, controversial, works best. In the mornings, our kids get to brush their own teeth, and then I brush them later. But we want them to feel successful. We want them to be independent, grow, and thrive. Setting up these things that they can do and these expectations sets our rest of our day up so well. So after our kiddos get ready, I have the kitchen clean. I've swapped out a load of laundry because there's so much laundry. And then I'm usually ready for the day. If not, then I start getting myself ready. And then from there, it depends on if we are home. That's typically when we start our homeschooling. If we are going out, I typically try and do our homeschooling before we leave for the day, because for us, we found our kids, we're not very motivated and excited and happy to homeschool at 6 and 7 o'clock at night. And that's super great. But for us, that doesn't really work. So we are one of those families where it's like, yep, let's get up, let's get it. I hate to say get it done because it sounds so horrible, but let's sit down, do our work, then have the rest of the day to do everything. So on the days that we are home, we sit down as quickly as possible, early as possible. We do our book work, and then we're free play, we're outside, we are together. But that's when we do more of what I consider like our kid guided stuff, which also is our playroom. Like we technically have a playroom, but this is still the area that our kids get really excited to play in. We have a pink dollhouse matched up to both a safari and a zoo, and they've made this big extended Adventureland. And so then they have cars that are going back and forth. And so on the cars, they have like different types of little people, and then there's a bunch of pegs and mag tiles. So that's another thing that we've really streamlined is our kids' toys. That's cut down on the clutter. A lot of that extra stress of, oh my gosh, there's just stuff everywhere all the time. And so definitely from an organizational standpoint, it's like we not necessarily rotate toys, but pick and pick, I guess in a way it's a rotation, but not necessarily a set rotation. But we have certain toys and then we phase out some of those toys and then bring in others. Addressing what the flow of the day looks like when we are leaving for the day. Same morning flow as far as like breakfast. I get up, then the kids get breakfast, everybody gets ready. Then we typically, if we're leaving our house for an activity or event, we try and leave by 8:30, try and set things to start at 9. So our bulk time of doing things usually starts from 9. Depending on if we pack our lunch, we typically are a big family that's let's pack our lunch, eat a picnic style lunch, and then come home. That really sets us up to be successful to get home for a quiet time. If we're out from 9 to like 12:30, 9 to 1, everybody comes home, everybody's like wants some quiet time and downtime. As my oldest always says, he needs a break from people. And that flow of it that I don't want to say we pack our morning full, but it does make a big difference. So Tuesday and Thursdays, my kiddos have their hybrid school both in the fall and spring semester. So that their school actually runs 9 to 12:30. So again, fits right into that window of when we ideally like to be gone from our house. So we have it pretty much scheduled that on Mondays is the days that our kids have like their extracurricular activities. During the spring semester, they were taking a ninja class. So it was a homeschool ninja class. It was a local gym here that they offered a class for several different classes, but they didn't have one that fit our schedule. So I actually just called them and introduced myself and said, hey, I have 12 friends that are interested in joining. Can you guys set something up on Monday at 10 o'clock? And they were like, yeah, let's do that because we had enough friends that were interested. It actually worked out super great. Our kids loved it. We've done that with other things as well where there's something offered, but it might not work for our schedule. So we just ask. For us, we can't do extracurricular activities every single day of the week. On Wednesdays, we stay home because that's a big homeschool day for us that we actually do our actual sit down book work, which I'm sorry, don't think I said this, that with the Monday extracurricular activities, we actually would do our schoolwork before we would go to the ninja class. And so it made it easy enough that we then go out. Sometimes pack a lunch, have a picnic, go to the park, hang out with friends for several hours before we would come home and do like our quiet time. So Fridays are always very interesting because I want my kids to have a big say in how they spend their time and who they spend their time with. Sometimes on Fridays, my kids are like, hey, we're just really tired. We want to stay home. Absolutely fine. 1 or 2 Fridays out of the month, we just stay home and do our homeschool. We're outside doing our thing. A couple Fridays a month, I volunteer at our kids' hybrid school. And so my role is called the parent liaison, which really helps with the community engagement. Typically, one Friday a month, I have scheduled some sort of like play group, play date, some sort of activity. Like this coming week, we have a group going to the fire department to do a tour. And because I'm the one that's scheduling that and organizing that, which I love doing, I schedule it when it works for us. So I know that a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'd love to go to the firehouse at 2 o'clock. And for our family, that doesn't really work. So when I'm scheduling it, I usually offer a few times, but I try and, hey, does it work at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, or 11 o'clock? And then usually most of our friends are able to do one of those options. And then if not, I would help them, hey, here's the contact person. You can organize it for later in the day. And then on the other Fridays that we're not doing some sort of like field trip or like school play date. We're getting together with our small group of friends. And so that really varies. Sometimes that's one time a month, sometimes that's all 3 Fridays of the month, but that Friday seems to really, or 4 Fridays of the month, but that time really seems to work well for us all on the Fridays. And so that's what we've just stuck with. And so I'm actually really excited for this year, where this coming like school year, I have a group of friends, like mentioned the mom group that I went to brunch with. And so all of our kiddos are really good friends. And so we're actually going to more of a formalized Friday play group. So I don't know if that's going to be every Friday, but then we'll just rotate it from people's homes or meet at the park, wherever. Just our smaller group that we all connect a little bit better. They happen to also be a part of the hybrid school that my kiddos attend. It just flows really well for us. Okay, typically that's why we get home in the afternoon. We usually are getting home from 12:30 or 1 from when we are out. And then that's where it makes it really natural for us to come home, get settled. Then we start rest time. I set a timer on my phone for 2 hours. Sometimes it was 1 to 3 every day, but it's usually starts between somewhere between 1 and 1:30. Sometimes it's closer to 2. A question that a lot of people ask is, what if you miss that quiet time? The reality is that, even if we weren't a homeschooling family, there would just be times that life is happening. And so if we miss it, I'm open with my kids, like, hey, we might go to bed a little bit earlier because we're not going to have a quiet time today. So your bodies might be feeling a little more tired than normal. So take that into account when you're wanting to jump across to your fort that you built. And so just having those, like, I know again, our kids are 2, 4, and 6, so they're not necessarily like our 2-year-old, she's not necessarily understanding that. But at the same time, just having those conversations definitely make a big difference. If we have to just skip our rest time, we just have to skip it. I know our youngest, she usually naps for 2.5 hours almost every day still. And so when she doesn't get that time, she wants to go to bed at 6:30, 7 o'clock, which is fine. We just know that and adapt and adjust. What's challenging though is that I utilize that time. I'm usually working right next to my children. I might have my laptop, I'd be working on my phone. Sometimes we actually will pull down our nugget, turn on a movie, and I'll be working right there with my kids. But I try and explain to my kids, hey, I'm on my computer or my phone because of XYZ. I'm working on blah, blah, blah. With my work, it's fun because some of the places I write for feature things that are happening with our kids. They're always really pumped and excited. And I'm like, hey, look at this article that I just wrote. And then I show them the photos of, look, whose back of the head is that? Whose hands are those? And so it's really fun for them to piece that together. Two of the places I write for have an actual hard copy magazine. And so we get those in the mail. My kids absolutely love getting that and then seeing that. So it puts it together. Hey, mommy's writing this, and then it'll show up in the mail. Our 2-year-old, she's chiming in that when daddy's home, it's her job to go get the mail with daddy. Let me go back really quick to summarize after our rest time, after our quiet time. So during rest time, quiet time in our house, that's when I'm like, I'm working, but that's usually when I'm like trying to take care of a few other things that it's harder to do when my kids are awake or when my kids are wanting the help with things. And so I try to utilize that time as efficiently as possible. If I haven't worked out for the day, then I typically work out during that time. But I go into our rest and quiet time with a plan. So I always have stuff that I'm getting ready to do. Then after rest time, I feel like it's a sprint. Our kids, everybody's back together, everybody wants a snack. Usually everybody wants to go outside or everybody wants to run around, play. And then we eat pretty early in our home. I start getting dinner ready right around like 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, I usually go in, re-clean our kitchen, clean out the dishwasher, get ready for dinner, prep dinner. And then we usually eat by 6 o'clock. After 6 o'clock, that's when our kiddos, we have really fun time. So after dinner, that's when we have our family time. And then it's pretty much from there. It's like, all right, once it hits 7, that's bath time, bedtime, something that in the mind, something fun that we do every night is we actually have at least one family game. Sometimes that's a couple rounds of Go Fish. Sometimes that's memory. Sometimes it's Guess Who. And so we do that 99.9% of nights. That gives us that bond at the end of the day. And then my husband and I, when he's not traveling, we take turns with who's helping who with bedtime. So our 2-year-old, she reads a couple books, she gets her babies, and then she's ready for bed. Our older kids, they love to read. And so right now we're reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It is geared towards middle school kids, but it's actually so funny and our kids love it. Last night we just started book 16 in the series. Some nights we're reading for 15 minutes when my husband's traveling and I'm putting everybody to bed. My oldest, our 6-year-old, will actually sometimes catch ourselves like reading for an hour because it's such a fun time that we both cherish. It's a beautiful way to end the day. Now it's 9 o'clock, so we have to stop reading. Usually everybody's in bed, lights out by 8 o'clock at night. That works well for our family because then finishing up the flow of the day, then from 8 to 10:30, 10:30, 11, then I have my time. I spend time with my husband and then I'm able to focus on getting things done. That's when I'm finishing up like answering messages, getting back to people. I said I don't send messages like text messages at 10 o'clock at night. I might draft them so that way in the morning I can send them easily. But yeah, so that's our day and week. I hope that all makes sense. I wish that every day was exactly the same, but for us, we're out of the house so much. I joke that we're like homeschool on the go. I hope that all makes sense. I will watch for your messages. Sorry, I left you 500 messages. You're going to be like, why am I chatting with this girl? She's so chatty, but hopefully you can get some good stuff out of there. And I look forward to your response. Okay, just kidding, Erica. I have one more really big, probably important thought that can knock all the rest of those thoughts out. So I think that the big key with the organization and the flow or the routine of it all is looking ahead. And so for us, that's always like, all right, what's on our calendar? What's coming up this week? And we actually talk about that as a family every morning. So I mentioned we sit down as a family and have breakfast. My husband isn't always eating, but he's in the room with us. There's not a lot of surprises. I keep a tote in our car that has an extra set of clothing for everybody, extra snacks that won't go bad. Even in the middle of the summer when it's super hot, I keep some extra stuff that if we're in a pinch, we always have. I do keep extra snacks in the car. I know people have very strong opinions on do we eat in the car? Do we not eat in the car? We're an eat in the car family. Our van is set up to keep us organized as well. We regularly have cracker crumbs all over our floor, which used to drive me bonkers, but now I'm like, you know what? There are way bigger things to worry about because we still vacuum and clean our car. We have a trash can in our car. We have a tiny toilet in our car. But the reality is kids are going to be kids, right? So to keep the flow and the routine and the organization, we're just looking ahead. We're making notes. My husband and I keep a joint Google Calendar. We have a lot of moving parts. My husband has his day job, which he loves. He also does some additional work for 2 other places. And so it definitely is, we're always busy, we're always on the go. And so setting ourselves up to be successful, hey, this is happening. I'm going to need help with this is going on, it definitely makes a huge difference. So my husband and I are always on the same page as far as the organizing and how to keep those systems afloat to keep our family afloat.
Janelle, all of this was super helpful. Appreciate all that you've shared. And we are not re-recording it. This is exactly what this is supposed to be like. Just how you would share is how you share. And those who are listening can't see that you typed out a summary of what each day is. If you just let me know if you are okay with me sharing that in the show notes of the podcast, because I can drop that too. But so much support that folks probably need here in what you shared. I'm just so thankful and I've learned a lot and I'm excited to try some things out. First and foremost, I want to shout you out for moving. Moving is just annoying. Like, who likes to move? But 20 boxes is a great goal and you got this. Cheering you on. I love how you have your kids send videos to your husband when he's away. That's so cute. And I love that he sends something back to them when you would get stuff from a teacher if your kids were going to traditional school. Your husband has those keepsakes and you even have them in your phone. I love that. That's so cute. And you can cherish those forever. I have a portfolio template that I use for the county that I'm in. I have to submit portfolio review, but also for moms who don't have to do a portfolio review for homeschooling, I recommend keeping the things that feel special and even some of the more typical moments. You'll look back at that and remember how little they were and how excited they were. It's just, that's so cool that you'll have that. I am obsessed with this co-op that has sports. And as you said, a lot of people join that for that reason. That's pretty cool. I have not heard of that before, and I don't think we have any of those around us. The other thing I was going to say about the phone piece, an app that I use, it's called the Freedom app, and it will actually, you can set it on a reoccurring timeline. Like you can say every day from 10 to 2 or whatever it is, your time that you want. Sometimes I'll have it going so it's every night by 10 p.m. I actually cannot access social media. It like cuts it off. So you can set it up so that you can't access it on your phone, your tablet, your computer. Like you can connect all of your devices. So that helps me to like not scroll at night. But I hadn't thought about using it during the day. I can't even go on social media for the like prime hours that I'm with my children. So that might be something to check out if you want to take it a step further. And it doesn't just have to be social media. You can block any sites or any apps. So it blocks it for the time frame. I try to get up before my kids, but it can be hard. We're just getting to the point with my 1-year-old that he's sleeping through the night. I was in that phase where I was too exhausted because I was waking up 1, 2, or 3 times a night. I was not getting up early because I was getting all the hours I could. Now that he's sleeping through the night, one thing I found that helps me get up is some form of accountability with another person, which is sad because I'm like, why can't I just be accountable to myself? I have a business, and so I have my biz bestie every Thursday morning. We work together and sometimes chat about business stuff. Sometimes we just do co-working. Another one is I actually teach Pure Barre classes, fitness class, and I have to get up early. I teach 6 a.m. classes. And so whenever I have to teach, I'm up. If there's a way in which you can be accountable, even if it's like you have a friend who wants to get up early too, you guys text each other, I'm up, then you just know there's someone who is holding you accountable. The last part that you came back on and shared is so huge. Looking ahead, having conversations, and a shared calendar. It's such a simple thing, but it does really make a difference, especially when you and your husband are both juggling multiple things. My husband also has his main job and 2 other ventures he's working on right now. So super similar. We chat every morning about, okay, what meetings do you have? So we need to like cover for each other. We chat every Sunday, like what does the week look like? And then I have a whiteboard calendar on the wall near our kitchen that I'll update. Mom has one color, dad has another, big brother, little brother, and then family color. So we put like just big things like birthday parties, holidays, or travel for me or my husband. My question for you, as I listen to your day, I know for sure I can think of one mom in particular, and I know it's not just one mom. It's probably hundreds of homeschooling moms who, when your kids are young, so you have a 2, 4, and a 6-year-old, relatively younger, how do you I appreciate what you shared in terms of we do homeschooling in the morning and then we have our quiet time and that's my time to work. And then we're there in bed by this time so then you can work in the evening too. Your morning routine sets you up for the day. But with younger kids, and you have 3 that you're balancing, so you're working to get through right now your 4-year-old and your 6-year-old's lessons, and your 2-year-old will start to have some type of learning too. How do you get through their work with efficiency but still effectiveness so that you can still do other things like the writing you do and the volunteering you do? I just know that so many people struggle with, I want to homeschool my kids, but I also want to work and do other things. It feels like you're doing this super well. But if there's anything else you can highlight around how you get through their lessons, help them to work independently so that you can work, or what have you set up so then there is some time for you to do some of the things you're working on too.
I love all of this that you have shared with me, Erica. I'm excited to check out that app. I think it's important that you have your accountability buddy for work and that the bar classes you're teaching help you get up and be motivated in the day. Right now, I set my alarm and I also tell my husband, don't let me sleep past whatever time he'll come in to wake me up. And I'll be like, I just need another 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I like realized when you were talking, I'm like, oh, I'm snoozing my husband like he's an alarm clock. He probably doesn't want to come in every 5 minutes to try and wake me up. So definitely have some room for improvement for that on my end. So to capture kind of your last question, I think that there's a lot of different systems or things that we've tried that have worked well, have not worked well. I'll find the link on Amazon and I'll drop it below. There's this book called Problem Solving Ninja, written by a psychologist, I believe. It's a series of books. I think there's, I don't know, 18 or 48. There's a lot of the books, and they all feature like a different life skill. And so Problem Solving Ninja is probably one of my favorites because it really helps kids just through reading the book understand how to problem solve. And so it's actually helped myself. My husband does a way better job at this than I do, but helped our kids learn how to problem solve on their own. I'm not talking about them homeschooling themselves, right? I'm talking about they're like, hey, I can't find my baby doll. And then we're like, all right, like when I first started being a mom, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got to go find that baby. And then I would just find the baby. And then I was teaching my kids that every single time they needed something, to come to me, ask me, and then I would fix their problem for them. My husband's always done a really great job of this, and he will walk our kids through it. And he's really patient in that area. Between talking with my husband a lot and reading that book, not only reading it to my kids, but also understanding that as well. That has really allowed me to set a new tone in our house. When our kiddos need something, I often will hear them now say things like, oh, let's figure that out, or I was working on blank and so it's like they're learning that problem solving. So that has been such a huge change and such a huge win in our family. It's not all the time, and I'm not going to force my kids to be screaming, crying because they can't find their baby. Of course, I'm going to step in and help them find their baby doll. I'll drop that link because that has been a huge change for us. I think another part of this whole piece of homeschooling multiple kids, multiple ages, and then still having a balanced life where it does feel really successful. We feel like we're successful at homeschooling. We feel like we're successful in our jobs and our careers. It sounds probably really silly, but we don't take life too serious. So there's a lot of things that I do feel really strict on. Like we're very, very conservative about food in the sense of we really limit sugars. I know it's trendy now to not have dyes, but we haven't had dyes in our family for 5 years. So a lot of things like that. We don't eat nitrate. We looking at like all of our food. So anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So where I was going with that is that we have these really high expectations in certain areas, but then in the living part of our home system, we try and make it fun. So like today for school, I have to do some laundry. Everybody was playing. So I'm like, all right, you guys continue to play for a little bit. I'm folding laundry and sitting outside of our laundry room, sorting everything. So then our 2-year-old comes over and she brings like these flashcards because, who doesn't love flashcards, right? And she's helping me sort the laundry by person. And then all of a sudden she's, oh, let's sort the flashcards by colors. So then she's practicing her green and her blues and her purples. And then our 4-year-old comes over and says, oh, what are you doing? And our 4-year-old, she knows her numbers, but the flashcards were actually multiplication. And so then she's like looking at them and she's, oh, is that addition problem? So we're looking at these flashcards and our 4-year-old was like, oh, are these addition problems? And I'm like, no, but we can make them into addition problems. So then we're sitting there and my 2-year-old is randomly picking up flashcards and she'll be like, okay, Daphne, pick up a purple one. So then she picks up purple one and then it's okay, Delaney, our 4-year-old, what numbers are on there? And she's, oh, there's a 2 and a 4. It's like, all right, if you have 4 apples and 2 oranges, how many pieces of fruit do you have? And she's able to tell us 6. My 6-year-old who loves math hears us talking about numbers and he's like down the hallway and he like yells at us. He's, hey, that's actually multiplication cards. Those aren't the addition ones. So then we all know 4 times 2, that's 8. And he goes, so the answer is not 6. And it's, no, Jay, we're working on addition. And so anyways, that silly little story, what that, to me, I don't know if that would be like our math lesson for the day per se, But that's where it's literally built in. Homeschooling is built into every aspect of our lives. So if on a random Wednesday, we don't get to every single thing I wanted to get to, I feel like we're weaving it into everywhere. And so I don't ever feel behind. In general, we always try and work ahead. Our 6-year-old finished kindergarten and he's testing at a third grade math level. Our 4-year-old just finished 3-4 preschool and she's testing at a kindergarten level already. We're having her do the 4-5 program next year to keep her on pace. And so with all those things, I think it's just about finding the balance, but finding the fun in it, finding the joy in it. It's like, hey, if my kids want to talk about math while we're sorting laundry, let's do it. It doesn't feel like as much work as, unfortunately, like people, I think when you first start hearing about homeschooling, it does feel really heavy. It feels really scary. Then it's, hey, I can do this. And so it's finding what brings you joy, what brings your kids joy, finding how to make that all happen. It's still hard, but it's doable. I think one more thing I wanted to talk about on that note is we often get asked about how to homeschool with multiple kids at different ages. Sometimes our 2-year-old literally stands on our kitchen table when we're in the middle of school because she's, hey, don't forget about me. And not that it's an everyday thing. And of course, we don't encourage her at late night before I go to bed. It makes me smile and laugh. That's where we're at right now in life. But I think going back to that example I shared about doing math work in the hallway while we're doing laundry, that's really the big key here is that we don't necessarily focus on like each individual kid's school. Of course, we have their curriculum, learning objectives, and specific goals, and we help them achieve those. But with that in mind, we make it like the whole house's learning opportunity. So what I mean is everybody's helping everybody. Sometimes I know it sounds silly, but we're like, hey, to our 2-year-old, can you sharpen the pencil for our 6-year-old? Hey, 2-year-old, can you grab the book off of the counter? She feels really included. We also have smaller projects. For example, our 4-year-old is working on some preschool projects and she's cutting and gluing. I make a copy of it and our 2-year-old will try and tag along as much as she can. And then it's really sweet because then our 4-year-old, I'll glance over at her if I'm working with our 6-year-old one-on-one and I'll catch our 4-year-old being like, hey, let me help you cut those out. And then, oh, this is where that one is. And then it's also sweet. She'll start telling her little sister, hey, that's wrong. That doesn't go there. That's not the right spot. And so then she's like trying to teach her that I'm coaching her like, oh, why doesn't that go there? Where would it go? What are other options? It's really sweet because then I catch our girls talking and playing together. Our 4-year-old models what I'm saying and she shares that with our 2-year-old Erica. It will melt your heart when your 1-year-old gets a little bit older and you're doing it all and they're just working together. It's just a family unit. And I think that's the bigger thing is that I think that when we look at like traditional public education, each kid is in their own classroom doing their own thing. But in our homeschool, it's like a big overlapping, messy mess, but it works so well. It's so beautiful.
I absolutely love this. I'm really looking forward to what you're describing when my 1-year-old gets a little bit older because he's 5, he'll be 6 in August, almost 6, but he is pretty mature. He already is, here, Miles, let me show you how to do this. I'm encouraging him and making sure he knows how great of a big brother he is and the reasons why so that he can continue to do that. I already know once Miles starts learning more, the 1-year-old starts learning more actual things other than how to talk and walk. My 5-year-old will be definitely co-teaching with me. He is already my co-teacher and he's going to just keep getting bonuses and upgrades to his role. Thank you for sharing the Problem Solving Ninja book. I am putting it in my Amazon cart immediately and we'll be ordering that. And I am definitely going to share it in the show notes so that folks can get that as well because I know that's a struggle for a lot of people with younger children to help them grow in their independence. Not like we're trying to make them be alone in life and do all the things for themselves. As they developmentally are able to, giving them those responsibilities and helping them to problem solve on their own is a huge life skill. Thank you for that. And huge shout out to you for the achievement of your children testing above their like typical grade level. That's huge and such an amazing thing. And I know that all of the work you're doing, having some results that speak to the effort, love, care, and all the work you put into it, having those results, the cherry on top is so good. I have two more questions for you. One is specific and one is open for you because you talk about as a parent liaison, you organize groups and you also have a group of friends that's like a closer knit friend group that both of you are friends with the parents, it sounds like, and your kids are friends with the children. How did you do that? I know like socialization is this whole big thing that everyone wants to like hate on homeschoolers about them being social, not being socialized. And I would argue that my son has gotten more quality relationship time with friends and peers and people who are actually even older than him and younger than he would in a traditional school. That's my opinion, and I will say that loud and proud to anyone who asks. I have had over 10 years of experience in education, and it's just different. It's way more quality and quantity because in most schools, they don't get time to socialize during class. It's like during the 20 minutes of recess. How did you find these communities? How did you build these relationships with you and the families, with your kids? What did all that look like? Because I know socialization is a thing that people are worried about when homeschooling. And then my final question is just anything else you'd like to share. So whether that's a tip for the overwhelmed homeschooler who doesn't feel very organized right now, or just a general, if you're homeschooling, here's my parting piece of advice, whatever you feel for that last question. But definitely want to hear about relationships and socialization in that piece. And then any last thing you want to share.
Okay, so I super love the idea of a co-teacher. That's so cute. I don't think I've ever actually shared this out loud, but in my head, I actually think of my older kids and even our youngest, depending on the roles that they're in at that moment. I think of them almost as like my teacher assistant because it's definitely a teamwork approach at our house. So it's everybody, all hands on deck. So to answer your points, Erica, or your questions there, so a couple of them. So first, I think, so yes, so from a, I don't even want to say outsider, because even just chatting with you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so connected with you. I feel like we could be like friends in real life. I'm naturally very introverted. If you've ever done the Myers-Briggs personality test, I'm like introvert. So I'm actually on the line introvert, extrovert. I'm sharing that because I think it's important to know that about ourselves. I'm fine being home. I like quiet time, and that's probably why I lean so much into writing. That's where I refuel and refill my own cup. When I first had our oldest and I started staying home, I knew I was going to need to put myself out there. And that felt really weird and awkward because we had our kids a little bit later than some people. A lot of our friends had kids really young, but for me, we were later, we were like closer to 30s. And so I was like, all right, I have to get out there and meet people. When I was pregnant, I didn't know this at the time, but I joined a MOPS group. It's called MomCon now, but it used to be Mothers of Preschoolers. I joined that when I was pregnant and was sitting around this table with these women I'd never met. And it was super awkward and uncomfortable. And I remember my whole body was probably covered in sweat. I was like, oh, why am I even here? And everyone's, oh, well, where's your older kids? Or, where? And I'm like, what older kids? Like, I'm going to have my first in a couple of months. And it was like really funny because it was like wrong place, wrong time. But everybody was like, yes, you should be here. You shouldn't wait to join moms groups. You need them now. And honestly, it was one of the best silly mistakes because through that, I felt so supported and so loved by these women I had just met a few months ago. They had already been in my shoes, and most of their kids were older already. And so they might have had younger siblings, but they all had kids that were like 4, 5, 6, 7. And they literally showered me with love when we had our oldest. It was a beautiful, amazing gift. I know I personally thank them, but there's just no way to ever like really say thank you for how much support that really meant. But then that kind of set the tone of as we were, gosh, this seems like forever ago, but that was really like our go-to. I had a group of friends. We got to know those friends. It was a different type of friendship prior to being a stay-at-home mom. I'm still really good friends with a group from college. I'm still friends with some of the individuals I used to work with, but it was different after we had our first and I started staying home. Through that group of friends, they were like, "Hey, we're going to go to the zoo. Why don't you come with us?" And I'm like, "With a 3 month old? Okay." But I did, and it was great. Then COVID happened, and I was still able to talk with everybody. Kids, some of the older kids were going to school 5 days a week. I'm sure you remember the whole mask thing. And so we really, not that we fell out, but we had our oldest, he was just over a year at that point, and I had just found out I was pregnant with our now 4 year old. It was a weird time because it was, hey, you're pregnant, and the world's shutting down for we don't know how long. And so I was still able to like, I had a really strong relationship, still do, but during COVID specifically, there was like one family that we were still able to get together. We were really close, and still to this day we are, even though we live several hours apart. Now, all of those little shared details to say that somehow you have to put yourself out there. Since 3 years ago, we have moved and we're about 2 hours outside of Kansas City. We love where we live, it's great. But again, it's like moving and you don't really know anybody, but you know people from the past. Now you're a stay at home mom and you have, at the time, a 1 year old, a 3 year old, or I think those ages were right, maybe a 2 and a 4, but no, it would have been, I think, like 1 and 3. And so we had to introduce ourselves to people, and it was just this weird thing. But I was able to join a couple different moms circles. I chose not to join MOPS here. There was nothing against it. It was just that timing wise, I don't like to be scheduled every single day of the week, even though MOPS or Moms Town, what is it now? But it's only, I think, 2 times a month commitment. For us, it was that just wasn't doable schedule wise. We had other things that we were interested in. So yeah, moms groups, moms friends, introducing yourselves to people, super awkward, but something that you just have to do. I think when we go to the park, I'd be trying to be that mom of striking up a conversation, and even though it's awkward, just doing it and seeing how that unfolds. And then a big turning point for me was I actually figured out that naturally I started to be like a community resource. We have a local website. It's called Manhattan Moms. It's a free community resource for Manhattan moms. Most people might be surprised that there's actually a little town in Kansas called Manhattan. So not the Big Apple, we're actually the Little Apple. Like how cute. So it's where Kansas State University is. I started writing, and so I was able to start writing all these community resource guides. And you were talking about like the bar class that you teach, Erica. So I actually have I know it's not the exact same, but we have a yoga and Pilates guide that has all the different these yoga studios in the area and the types of classes. And there, we only have 2 bar places that you can go. But then I was able to, like, I wrote like a homeschool guide. And so then that kind of, I think, put my name out there in the community of, hey, this is someone that's homeschooling. They're interested in it. It sounds really silly because I don't consider myself famous or a name on the street. I do think of myself as pretty low key. When I'm like out places at the park and then someone's, oh, you're Janelle. Oh, do you write for, and they're like, oh, you're a writer. Oh, do you write for Manhattan Moms? Oh, I read your homeschooling guide. And then we sit there and talk about homeschooling. And so I've wrote guides from like all across the area as far as like things to do in the area, free things to do, date nights, sports guides, anything that you can think of. We've probably, if I haven't wrote it, one of the other writers probably have. But the last thing I really want to mention as far as how to make friends is there's actually a book. There's a book, I believe it's by Dale Carnegie. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. The name's a little tricky because we're not trying to influence people, but we're really just trying to introduce ourselves. The whole point of the book is for us to stop talking and get to know other people, as opposed to nobody wants to hear us talk for 45 minutes about ourselves. People want to talk. And so the whole moral of that book is, hey, ask people questions. That's how you make friends. So I think that makes, once I read that years ago, it was like really life changing because it's like, hey, I'm super introverted, but I like people and I like to be in these roles in a way that I get to know people and I like having the socialization. And so I think that's the key is like getting to know people, even as awkward as it is. And then this is the other shocking piece of advice is I always try and invite people to do something, right? And I know that feels awkward for somebody to be like, yeah, I don't want to. Most people will be like, yeah, let's try it. I don't invite every single person because logistically, there's no way to do that. But when you get over that awkwardness and just talk to somebody and invite them to do something, it works. The key is just doing it, talking to people, asking them questions about themselves. And then if you relate, asking them to go do something, inviting them to go to coffee, inviting them, or I guess in the modern world, text them and get to know each other via text. I do know there's an app out there that it is specifically for moms making other mom friends. I think it's called the Peanut or Peanuts. I've had a couple of people I know that have used it and loved it. Typically, they're in big cities and need to make a mom friend. So just sharing that because I thought that was really a fun app that they have out. Okay, a couple more things as I wrap up here. One resource I want to share is something I've done recently. I think in the modern world, we're all so like on all the time. Even as much as we've talked about like turning our cell phones off, there's always noise, there's always somebody needs something, somebody's crying or the dog's barking, someone's at the door, there's just always so much noise. I found myself being really angry and not necessarily at my kids, but there was just so much noise all the time. And I felt like I was taking that out on my husband. I was just like mad. And he's like, what did I do? And I'm like, nothing. Because he legitimately didn't do anything. I was just talking. But I was deep diving to try and find something. So I wanted to share this in case anybody else has felt that way, where all of a sudden you're just not at your true happy self. I found this lady on Instagram and I don't even know her real name, but her handle is called The Calm Mom. I bought the course. She sells it's $11. I wish I would have known about this years ago. I haven't, that's not like my normal who I am, but she actually teaches you the different types of anger. I think she said there's 4 different types of anger and helps you identify who you are and what you do when you get angry, and then gives you actionable items for when you're angry. For me, it's not so much that I get angry. I feel like what always happens is I'm like, hey, you guys, does anybody need anything before I wash the dishes? Nope, everybody has water. We just had a meal. Everybody's set up on their new activity. Everybody's good. Then I start washing dishes and it takes 5 minutes, but that somebody does something, like something happens, and it's not ever like anything that's like crazy. It's, hey, I need help with blah, blah, blah. Now it's, hey, I just asked you, give me a few minutes. Let me finish this up. Let me wipe my hands off. They're soapy and covered in water. Give me a few minutes. Let me finish. Let me get to a stopping point, or let me stop. And then it's like 2 of my kids start fighting, or the dog needs to go outside. And then all of a sudden it's like so loud. It sounds really silly to say out loud because none of it feels overwhelming. But all of a sudden you feel really overwhelmed. And I'm sure someone can relate to that, where you're in that situation and then all of a sudden it's like you're at 0 and then all of a sudden you're at 100, which actually reminds me of another book that we love that talks about your volcano and anger levels and how it explodes. Going back to the Calm Mom, she walks you through what to do in situations based on your anger type and how to control your anger level. For me, I quickly turn into fight or flight. And I don't want to yell at my kids. I don't want to explode at them for being like, hey, mom, can you come help me figure out how to get this piece off of this other piece? Because it's not worth yelling at them and ruining our whole day. One tip she shared that 2 things I'll share. The first one, that one thing that like truly I like resonate in my head is she had shared this is not an emergency. That sounds so silly and simple, but that's something that like my brain is really latched onto, because when I was working full time, I worked as a healthcare executive director. And so I was like the administrator. And so when there was an emergency, there was a true emergency. With fires happening, people falling, we need to call an ambulance. There was always, when there was an emergency, it was like run. In my brain, it goes to fight or flight, like somebody's screaming, emergency, got to take care of it. But these aren't emergencies. So I chant in my head, taking deep breaths, this is not an emergency. This is not an emergency. The Calm Mom actually shares a tip for fight or flight anger types that help you build up your tolerance, is to hold a piece of ice for 5 seconds in your hand, and that can help build up your tolerance. I must be really tolerant because I can take ice cubes in both my hands and hold them for like 2 minutes because my kids counted it out. And my hands were literally white. But I'm sharing all this because I feel like I didn't know about any of that. And so, yes, I think that she is such a hidden, she's totally being discovered now, but I wish that I would have known about her 5 years ago. So I'm sharing that. Okay, so my final thoughts to anyone that's homeschooling or thinking about homeschooling is really find your why. Very simple, super hard to answer. The reason you want to homeschool is why. For me, I have a list of pros and cons for everything. At the end of the day, this is our time that we have with our kids. I once read a statistics, who knows if it's right or not, but it was like by the time your kids are 12, you'll have spent 75% of your time with your kids. And again, I don't know if that's true or not, but that just sounds like such a shocking number to me. I don't want to give up this time. And so for me, that's the big why is I want to be here with my kids. I want to give them the best that I can possibly do. And that's what I always go back to is why are we doing this? When things do get hard and they seem messy and I'm juggling, why are we doing this? Because we think it's the best option for our kids. That's all I got for you, Erica. I have loved chatting with you. I feel so inspired by all the things that you're doing. I feel so lucky to have gotten connected with you. Thank you so much for having me on here. I just feel so inspired, so uplifted. For anybody that's listening, feel free to reach out to me directly or via Erica. If you have any specific questions, feel free to check out my website. It's flinthillsmom.com. So FLINTHILLSMOM.com. So you can find me the website, Instagram, Facebook, and now recently TikTok, which is like this whole other adventure. Who knew? So thank you again, Erica.
Thank you so much, Janelle. I totally agree. I feel like we're friends already. And if you're okay with it, I definitely want to keep chatting on Boxer about all things homeschool just as we go along. I feel like I'm going to reach out to you and be like, hey, this happened. What would you do? I feel like I learned so much about you, and you are amazing. This has definitely been inspirational for me too, and I know everybody who gets a chance to listen in on it, it will be inspirational for them too. So thank you for all of the gems you dropped, all the resources and the details. I know many people are going to be just grateful for it. So thank you again. And I will link all of the stuff, including where folks can find you and connect with you, your website, your social media in the show notes. And we'll chat soon. Bye.